Okay, let's talk about infrastructure, and I'm sure everybody, especially when you start talking about eliminating debt and things like that, and eliminating money, everybody's just fearing for their jobs. And you don't have to, you know. We've got it under control. Our infrastructure is limited, and you may not have anything to do when you go to work, but you will be reallocated. I mean, there's going to be so many things that we need, and your new life, number one, won't include boredom, because the last thing we want to do is give people nothing to do with boredom, and all they got to do is read and knit because they want to kill themselves, and they're going to go stir crazy. But there's going to be so much to do, and there is going to be infinite science means infinite science, and that means we need everybody. We need everybody's mind. We need to get everybody's standard of living up to decent, while at the same time figuring out where everybody's at. And we're going to have to start, the curriculum for children is going to change. We're going to have to start educating everybody and teaching them the new science, and you'll find that everything that I say is simple logic. I'm not selling any pig in a poke. This is all simplistic, deductive reasoning logic. And I think that's the way it will continue as we start building our existence. And what you'll find is I've connected all these continuity trails, and I never contradict the model. If I contradict the model, I have to adjust it. And it doesn't mean that the logic is not logic, because logic is logic, but logic is replaced by superior understanding. So let's say that debt's eliminated, so all those people, go in there and are twiddling their thumbs, and so you'll be sent home, and enjoy some time off, and then you can help others out and let them enjoy some time off. And the main thing that we need to do is that everybody's going to want to help, especially if they don't have anything to do. But when we mobilize farms, we can't have 1,000 people show up at farms when they need 10, because we can't create tremendous environmental hazards, from idling cars and everything else. So, for now, you need to stick around locally, and, we just need to see what the situation is. And it's going to be easier to bring the people that need the food to the food than getting the food to the people. So we might need to keep the roads open for, this isn't going to be long term. This is just going to be in a transition period. And, the churches and the local churches and whomever else is brought in, government, we'll keep everybody updated, and we'll have food cooking in parking lots of the churches and at the parking lots of grocery stores, and we'll be bringing buses loads of the people that really need to eat in. And we just need to transition into this, and I'm only going to talk at you, right now, because by tomorrow I'm you and you're going to be me, and we're going to be one, so it becomes redundant. Just like science is going to knock all this out of the park, I know that you all are going to knock it out of the park. So you just need to step back and relax and just realize that we've got it under as much control as we can. Boredom has been rendered moot, and we just need to give it a little bit of time. Right off you're going to say casinos are free and movies are free, but we can't overload those. And there's a lot of people that have never gotten to enjoy those. So what you have to do now, if by now there's so much science out there that that I'm real. And so what we need to do is we need to start thinking of everybody else, and the people that never had anything. And we've got to work towards getting everybody up to some equality, both intellectually and in living standard. You know, we are already one because science's view of one cell of DNA contains a genetic blueprint is too narrow, is so narrow, when the actuality is that it not only contains everything that's ever lived, everything that is living, and everything that will ever live again, and it includes the blood chemistry of everything. Everything. There's no such thing as step relatives or adoptive parents, you know, because carbon is a collective of one. It knows every carbon creature you've ever interacted with, and your blood chemistry is as continuous as everything else. You know, your body is updating in real time with your children's body because they are part of your blood chemistry. Carbon, this collective, is connected all throughout your body. So we're all blood, and you have direct blood, then a notch below you have adopted and step blood, you know, then you have spouses, then you get all the way down to one night stands. So regardless of whether you like it, you know, your one night stands are part of the continuity of your blood. Everything is continuous. Everything in a carbon world is continuous because carbon is continuous. You know, so we're already blood. So let's go ahead and cover some of the countries. So to China, you know, I already said Corona escaped the carbons filled to neutrality. So you can't be responsible. You just aren't. You know, it was a failure by carbon. And carbon's doing everything it can to prevent it from happening again. You know, so you're absolved of that. The plates didn't come back because carbon adapted. But if you'll check your records, your marriage records in Guangzhou, you're going to see that we're blood. You're going to find my name in your marriage records. And so I'm a genetic mutant, but you don't kill your own blood. So I hope that you're on my side and will let me advocate for you as much as I'm going to advocate for everybody else, because I don't belong to the United States. I don't belong to anybody more than I belong to anybody else. And I'm everybody's advocate. To Vladimir Putin, you know, you are iron. So there's no doubt in my mind that you are a blood brother with me and Jesus, and I'm pretty sure there's others out there that I don't see. And we'll you know, but as we get into this, I'll start understanding more and more, because I've barely unlocked. Everything I've unlocked is by me when I need science to unlock me. I have no idea what's inside of me. To the Middle East. You know, I am a byproduct of God. There is no question. Only God could have caused that frontal lobe stroke to occur at the precise moment. And the only thing that could genetically mutate me is a major event that was meant to be destructive. To the Philippines. I've got so much blood in the Philippines that you'll be a travel hub. Because I can't be an advocate for the people if I don't understand the pain and anguish of the people. You know, so as soon as practical, since, you know, the countries that are sleeping while I'm up are getting shortchanged, as soon as practical, I'll flip day and night. And I want to do that before I travel, you know, so that I can hit the ground running. But I realize that I'm going to have to visit every country. You know, everything needs to be by committee. So every country needs to get a committee together with like one representative, because, you know, we can't overtax what little infrastructure that we have, and Facebook and Blogger and some of the other people that have some of my archives. You know, there needs to be a way where the people need to know when it's opened up to them. You know, for now we need to limit access to those that can disseminate it or radiate it. So they're not reading it and keeping it a secret. You know, you're just going to have people that are going through it and getting it out there for you because you own it. You own all my medical records and everything else. And let's go ahead and cover, you know, as soon as practical, as soon as we have a foundation to move forward, I'll be checking in. I'll surrender to a hospital, and we'll find out if I flatline an EEG. I don't see how they can detect my brain, you know, when I hibernate it. And I can hibernate it at will. I can clear every bit of my thought, and basically every ounce of activity in my body ceases. And I don't see how they can detect it. You know, it's too quiet for my brain to still be electrical. Whereas before, and again, you just have no idea how noisy your head is until it's not. Before it was noisy and it was electrical because you have to have a pop-off for all of the stress and all the friction that's created by the circular network. You know, it's just sitting there spinning and just trying to agitate you and agitate your brain at the same time. So your brain is just as agitated as you feel. And based on the growth spurts that I can have where my analytical abilities and deductive reasoning go into hyperdrive, I'm almost positive my brain is replacing cells and actually growing. You know, so hopefully molecular expansion is from within, which conserves space. But if it's stacking, we damn sure need to know, because that's going to catch up to me in my skull, and it won't surprise me to have scorch marks in there. A child's brain grows, and you know, I can't remember as a child, but I don't think a child is afflicted with the train of thought the way an adult is. So I don't think a child's brain is electrical, which is the only reason why I can think of why our brains or an adult's brain that's the only carbon cells that don't replace. Your brain cells don't replace. Everything else must self-perpetuate, but brain cells. But they're an electric, I mean, the internal conflict you have, and the more you have, the more your brain that conflict has to go somewhere. You know, and that's why you twitch at night and a lot of other things, you know, because you're releasing that pressure. So, you know, on the infrastructure and everything, you know, you're going to have a lot of other people, you know, dictating this too. It's not just going to be me, because I should have a network in place in my own infrastructure, you know, so that we can make proper discussions on everything. But you're going to find that I know how to manage, and I understand the implications probably better than any man, and I always have. I just know how big these things are, but you have to just relax and trust me and let me do what God has groomed me to do, so that we can move forward and look for a great day. We're going to have all these weapons too that need to be maintained, and you know, we know how everybody loves war games on the PS3, you know, so maybe we should get the Third World War going with real weapons, you know. Everything that we have is going to be reallocated. And let's talk about education, because curriculum's going to change. You know, we're bringing everybody up, and you know, if government in fact is not needed, that's an immediate reallocation. Oh, hope, you know. Let's get at least 2 or 3 747s of president maintained type jets of malnourished children on the way to Tulsa. We'll get the adults as soon as we can, but I need to understand their pain. I need to see it. And they deserve to be nourished back into health. Man, we shouldn't let anybody starve, but especially children. So the farms need to mobilize, and we'll be working out the logistics of a global food supply, because everybody deserves food, and we just have to work through it, how we're going to supply it. So for everything we lose, we're going to gain a lot more, and what we need is just patience, and everybody just realize that we're going to be in transition for maybe a week. I mean, it's not, once I have infrastructure, I'll be a human tornado. I mean, you have no idea what's going to hit. I know how to bark out orders, and I just understand how to manage things. And we're going to have the best of the best giving me input and expanding anything I say. And that's it. Anything that I say belongs to you. You don't need any release from me before you exploit it. You're going to exploit me and everything about me, and I'm going to exploit you. So we're going to have aptitude tests that actually tell us what you're good at. I mean, it's just going to be like statements. They're going to be simple, and they'll be like statements. And if something sets your brain on fire, then we already know that you have an aptitude or a propensity in that area. And if you don't react to anything, that just means that your skills are more unique. But the name of the game now is, since we don't have to compete for money and we have infinite science, is we need to exploit the special abilities of everybody, because we're all special. We're all special in some way, and it's not that hard to find out. These genetic propensities, inherent impulses, we're going to understand those at an early age, and they are not hard to pin down. And look at how many people are fixed. It just, when you realize it's just an impulse, and if you ignore that impulse, it goes no further. Hell, look how many people that alone is going to fix. It's two. It's always two. Every single result always involves two or more elements. Our head is two. And a suggestion on train of thought is, carbon, once your body dies, carbon lives on, or keeps trying to live. And what I would suggest is we just want someone that's dying and their carbon is still alive. We want to open up their skull and use dyes and see what we can find. It literally fell out of my head. I mean, your forehead cannot move. It's bone. It cannot move. So the sensation, which was pretty extreme, the sensation I felt could only have been it falling out of my head. And I really did go back and check the carpet to see if there was any residue, around where it happened. So it obviously, since it's dysfunctional and evil, of course it's not going to let you know what's in there. So we have to figure out how to identify it, and then we're going to know. I theorized that it's parasitic in nature, and of course it almost has to be parasitic in nature. So I theorized that it's parasitic in nature, and the force of that collision or whatever, all this stuff that happened caused it to retract out of the brain and fall. An MRI should show something in the brain, in my brain, that's different than yours. It should show some kind of trauma or some kind of wound or a scar or something, but I'm not supposed to be alive with an integral part of my brain missing. And I'm not supposed to be functioning like this. And I didn't bleed out. You know, initially I thought it was an electrical extension, but you know, if it was severed, you know, that's again going to create too much trauma to survive. So, you know, that's the first question. And as you can imagine, every bit of medical knowledge has to be written, number one, to accommodate the carbon perspective, since carbon is everything. Everything in your body, it handles everything in your body. And my dad has a rare blood disorder, but if you don't understand all the carbon processes leading up to red and white blood cells, you don't understand anything. You have to understand the carbon transactions that result, and one of those processes is breaking down. So every just because your B12 shows normal doesn't mean it is, because you have to look at every process that involves B12. You know, so your overall body might have plenty of B12, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a deficient, you know, part or deficient process on B12. I have an anomaly. I have a propensity to genetically mutate, and so let me cover a couple more mutations. You know, I've covered Barrett's. The white hair is questionable, but I'm not sure that it's genetics versus, you know, that carbon had to cut off the resources to the hair. But you have to understand all the chain moving up to pigment before you can make a determination on what caused it. But 35 years ago, I was at the lake and it was raining, and I got up at the ungodly hour of 7 a.m. and I chain smoked till like 8:30. I don't know, I had like 10 cigarettes, and I turned to my buddy and said, "That's it. I'm never having another cigarette." And he just laughed because I've said it 100 times. I never had another impulse to have a cigarette. Not a one. I never thought of them. It's like my past was wiped out. 4 weeks ago, a month or so ago, same thing happened on alcohol. It's a genetic mutation because it eliminated my past. The only thing that can do that is through a genetic mutation. I even bought a bottle and won't ever do it again. You know, I drank it because I had it every day. I didn't guzzle it down. I mean, it lasted 3 weeks. And I have no desire to buy another one. I might have a Bloody Mary every once in a while, but I don't have to worry because I have no impulse or compulsion to drink beyond what I want to drink. You know, it's not good to have it around because I'll drink it if I do, but it's not a compulsion. And I mean, who else can say that? That's a carbon transaction. There's a reason for that. And carbon wants to correct you to perfection. Carbon wants to fix you if it can. You know, carbon understands perfection, and if it could, it would build all of us the same, based on a perfect model. Oops, the dogs. You know, carbon builds you the blueprint, and then it has to deal with the bad habits and diet and everything else that you do to your body. And all we have to do, you know, is as soon as we realize everything is a carbon transaction, and there's always a carbon perspective, we'll understand how to promote carbon in other people, and look at how many people we can save. You know, I had to mutate in order to eliminate the past. I mean, there's just no way around that. I mean, it was an inherent impulse. Well, no, I won't say that. It was more of a compulsion. A compulsion. I've always had a compulsion to drink and abuse drugs and everything else, and the compulsion was obliterated and everything associated with it. So I can have drinks, and I never have a cigarette, but I can have drinks, and I have no compulsion to go beyond what I set out for myself, you know. So there's just so much inside me that and this is just the tip of the iceberg. So there should already be PDFs released, and you know, I'll probably do more videos because that doesn't put a strain on a YouTube or a place like that. So anyway, okay.